I'm Dr. Mark Hatala, and I want to welcome you to my office. I'm a cognitive scientist who studies time travel by replicating days from the past. And so everything that someone would be exposed to on a particular day, from early morning newspapers through late night television and everything in between. So the day we're talking about today is February 9th, 1964, which is the day that the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so what we're going to talk about are some of the women's magazines, what were called women's magazines, from February 1964. And so let's get it started with McCalls. Now, you probably didn't realize that January Jones was actually a time traveler and went back to 1964. She's from Mad Men, if you've seen that show. McCalls was an incredibly popular magazine in 1964. Its circulation was 8.4 million copies per month, which was in third place behind Reader's Digest and TV Guide, which says something about America in 1964. Now, there's some interesting articles in this particular issue. One is about, it's a very prescient article because it talks about the culture of the time. And so what they're interested in is both Stanley Kubrick, who had just come out with the movie Dr. Strangelove, and the Beatles. And they predicted that they would both be very popular. There's also a long-form article about Judy Garland. And she actually has a television show that it started as a variety show. And then they decided that just wasn't working because she was doing comedy and stuff, and everybody just wanted to hear her sing anyway. But the show was actually on February 9th, 1964. And so I'll put a link to that too. But this is what I wanted to say about it. She's kind of a mess. And so the article gets into that too. What they ended up doing with the show is getting rid of it as a variety show and just had her sing for the full hour. But it was canceled. She just couldn't compete with Bonanza. Not only because it was in color, but because it was the #1 show on television at the time. Our second magazine is Cosmopolitan, which is not the Cosmopolitan that you are familiar with. This is from 1964. Now, Helen Gurley Brown, who wrote the book Sex and the Single Girl, became editor in 1965 and utterly changed the magazine, made it essentially the magazine for single women in America. Now, she does make an appearance in this edition because there's an article called The $1 Billion Battle Between the Sexes that quotes her. Now, one of the things that they're concerned about in this particular article is, and I'll put links to all of these below too, is the divorce rate in 1964, which was 2.5 couples per thousand per year. And that was up considerably from the 1950s. And so it was like, why is there this rash of divorces? Now, the divorce rate peaked in 1981 I teach a romantic relationships class, that's why I know these things. But the divorce rate peaked in 1981 at 5.4 divorces per thousand couples per year. And to put it in context, I'm making this in 2022, and according to the CDC, the divorce rate for us now is 2.2 couples per thousand per year. So it's actually below the rate it was in 1964, which I think is significant. Our third magazine is Good Housekeeping. Now, Good Housekeeping was also incredibly popular in 1964. It sold 5 million copies a month. And really, like McCalls, and they called them the Seven Sisters, like Red Book and Family Circle. Some of these still exist today, some of them don't. So like, for example, McCalls doesn't exist anymore. It ceased publication in 2002. They gave the editorship to Rosie O'Donnell in 2000 to try to save the magazine. Then the next year they changed it, in 2001 they changed the title to Rosie. And then they shut it down in 2002 because nobody wanted to read it. But at the time, these magazines were aimed at women who were married, who were homemakers. And so that's kind of what they appeal to. So there's a couple of interesting articles in this copy of Good Housekeeping. One is about how a woman says that she married a mama's boy because he's 19. They got married a week after she turned 18, and he involves his mom in all the decisions, and she doesn't like that, which is certainly reasonable. It's also, if you've heard of Dr. Joyce Brothers, who was a psychologist, it's her first column in Good Housekeeping. And she literally wrote this column for decades. Now, she was the most popular psychologist in the media of her day. She was like the Dr. Phil of her time, although I'm not sure that Dr. Phil is popular in our time anymore. He's probably more of an early 2000s phenomenon. But anyway, she gives advice and she writes about things. And one of the things that she talks about in her column is, what does it mean to be a real womanly woman? Now, I don't know because I'm not a biologist. I'm a cognitive scientist. But it's interesting to compare her ideas about what it means to be a woman to what we consider it to be today. And so, again, I'll put links below to all of these so that you can read these articles if you're interested. And why not come visit us at Time Travel Simplified and try time traveling yourself? It's guaranteed. And why don't you pick up my book, Beatles in America, February 9th, 1964. Our motto is, it's time travel or it's free. And so if you buy the book and you do the time traveling and you feel like it's not a time travel experience, then I'll happily refund your money. I would ask you to like and subscribe to this video and maybe share it. And if you'd like to support my research on Patreon, I put a link below. And otherwise, have a great day.